to the bad. Now, we have to be careful that at a time like this, about what is reasonable use by governments of powers to make sure that they can keep people safe, and not getting a blank cheque. Not giving a blank cheque to politicians to decide just how the system should work. Now, I don't want to bell this cat too loudly. I don't think too much of this is happening, but I don't like what's happening in Queensland. Because in Queensland, they have made a decision that it is up to the government to decide if the parliament will sit at all in the next 6 months. Pretty convenient when you've got an election coming up at the end of the year. They also are holding off any decision when it comes to those local government elections, which are happening not this, but next weekend. There are well and truly more than 500,000 people who've asked for a postal vote in Queensland. I think that rather than cancelling Parliament, and I don't want to see parliaments existing just for the sake of passing new laws and giving us speeches, but you have to make sure that governments can be held to account. While I have been very critical of opposition figures who pop up doing endless interviews all the time, the opportunity for them to ask questions is in question time. Those question times should be happening around the country, because not all government is going to be perfect here, and particularly in an election year in Queensland, you have to have an ability for the government to be confronted on issues other than coronavirus. Because while that is the big dominant news issue, there still is youth crime that's happening in Queensland. There's still the attack on the mining sector that is happening in Queensland, let alone failures in our schools and all of the other things that would normally occupy the political space. So watch some of the blank cheques that might be happening at the state government level, because it's happening right now in Queensland. I put this in the bad category because we were in Tasmania yesterday. I loved it. I loved waking up in Hobart today. I wish we were there again tonight. It's a wonderful part of Australia, but I'm not entirely happy with the idea that the Tasmanian Premier has now said that Tasmania is closed to anyone but Tasmanians. Now, I understand the fear is that sick people come from the mainland and then end up coming down to Tasmania. But the truth is that when we do not have an international tourism sector, we have to have a domestic tourism sector. And one of the biggest things in the Tasmanian economy is tourism. We want people to go to Tasmania, but Tasmania has said no.
We are going to introduce the toughest border measures in the country. From midnight on Friday, only essential travellers will be allowed into Tasmania without going into quarantine. Any non-essential traveller into Tasmania will be required to go into a period of 14 days of quarantine. Essential travellers will be those that are important to our health effort or to an emergency situation, or those that keep our trade links running. We know that for some it will create disruption, but our aim is to ensure that we protect the health, well-being and safety of Tasmanians.
Keen to know what you think about that, particularly if you are a Tasmanian. Was it the right decision? I know when we were talking to Brian Carlton from Triple M in Hobart, he seemed to think that was the right thing to do. Lots of locals that we spoke to thought it was a good idea, but I don't know how those local tourism businesses would be feeling. I get it. People from China, people from America, people from Europe. But the idea of people from New South Wales, I'm not entirely sure about that.